Hello, Eric, and all our storytelling friends. I'm Sudha Umashanker from Chennai. I'm a journalist, author, and a storyteller. And the story that I'm going to narrate today is The Fisherman and the Genie. And this is from the Tales of the Dervishes by Idris Shah. This is his version of the story, although a similar version can be found in the Arabian Nights. Now, once upon a time, there was a fisherman who went out to sea one day. He was in a very expectant mood as he cast his net, because the last few times he hadn't landed anything by way of a catch. So this time around, he was really looking forward to seeing something in his net. And a short while later, his curiosity was piqued by what he saw in his net. It was a brass bottle with a lead stopper. And although this wasn't exactly what the fisherman was hoping to net, he thought, well, at the very least, maybe I could sell it to a brass merchant and perhaps make some money today. He took a closer look at the bottle. It wasn't very large, and on top was inscribed a seal. It was a seal of King Solomon, the king and master. And what's more, inside the bottle was imprisoned the most fearsome genie. Solomon had put him there inside the bottle because he wanted to protect his people from these spirits until there came by somebody who could manage the spirit and assign to it its proper role in the service of mankind. Now, as I was saying, our fisherman didn't know anything about this. He hadn't a clue. All he was looking for was to see whether the bottle would be of any value to him, because the outside of the bottle shone and gleamed like a work of art. So inside, he thought perhaps it could contain some diamonds. At that point, he completely forgot the words of advice that he had been handed down by his ancestors. Words that said, man can use only what he has learned to use. So the fisherman gave in to temptation, and he reached out for the bottle and pulled out the stopper. He turned the bottle upside down, but that didn't seem as if there was anything in it. And then he noticed some wisps of smoke emanating from the bottle. And slowly these wisps got denser and denser and morphed into the most hideous genie, who spoke in a booming voice. And he said, I am the chief of the genies. And I am the person who knows the secret of miraculous happenings. I was put there in this bottle by Solomon, against whose order I rebelled. And I am going to destroy you. Now the fisherman was quaking with fear. And he said, why would you destroy me when all I'm trying to do is to give you your freedom? And the genie said, destruction runs in my blood, and rebellion is my very nature. And I have been imprisoned in that bottle for years. The fisherman now realized that far from him profiting from that bottle, his life was going to end very soon. But as he contemplated on his situation, a question popped up in his mind. And he asked the genie, surely you couldn't have come out of that bottle. The mouth of the bottle is way too small for a fearsome genie like you to come out of it. The genie was touched to the quick. And he said, what? You are doubting the chief of the genies, who knows the secret of miraculous happenings? And he quickly dissolved into vapor and went into the bottle. The fisherman lost no time in reaching out for the stopper, and he took it and plugged the bottle and flung it as far as he could into the ocean. Many years later, one day, another fisherman, who happened to be the grandson of the first, cast his net at the exact same spot. And guess what? He landed the exact same brass bottle. But the moment he saw the bottle, he immediately recalled the words of his grandfather. Man can use only what he has learned to use. So he set the bottle on the sand. Now the genie who was inside and disturbed by all this movement spoke through the bottle. And he said, "Oh, son of Adam, whoever you might be, open the bottle and release me. For I am the chief of the genies, who knows the secret of miraculous happenings." Now the fisherman was forewarned, so he was not going to do anything of that sort. So he left the bottle in a cave, quickly clambered up a cliff, and went and sought the advice of a wise old man who lived there. He met the wise old man and told him the entire story and asked for his advice. And the wise old man said, "You know, those words of advice that you've been handed down by your ancestors, every single word of that is true. Now you have to do whatever you have to do by yourself. And you should know how to do it." Now the fisherman was perplexed. And he said, "What do you want me to do?" And the wise old man turned the question back to him and said, "What do you want to do?" And the fisherman said, "Well, of course, I want to release the genie. And then I want to seek his knowledge about the secrets of miraculous happenings. And if he could also give me some diamonds or emeralds or, whatever else that genies might bestow." And the wise old man said, "Do you really think the genie is going to give you all this? For all you know, he might give you a thing and then take it away. For you have no means of guarding the same, leaving you in a worse position than you were before had you had these things. Because, as your grandfather told you, man can use only what he has learned to use." So the fisherman was completely confused, and he said to the old man, "What should I do?" And the old man said, "Seek a sample from the genie and seek to test it. Seek knowledge from him as to how to safeguard what he might give you. And remember, it is better that you seek knowledge rather than any kind of material wealth, because then you are likely to get distracted." The fisherman was somewhat convinced by this advice, so he took leave of the wise old man And he walked towards the cave, mentally charting out a plan in his head. He went to the cave and knocked on the brass bottle. And the genie replied in a very tinny voice, "In the name of Solomon the Great, upon whom be peace, open the bottle and release me, O son of Adam." The fisherman knew what he was going to do next. And he looked at the genie, who was obviously in the bottle, and said, "I don't believe you are who you say you are. Nor do I believe that you have the powers that you claim to have." And the genie was really hurt by this. And he said, "What? You are doubting the master of the genies? Don't you know that I'm incapable of lying?" And the fisherman said, "No, I don't." And then the genie asked, "How can I convince you?" And the fisherman said, "Demonstrate to me. Can you exercise your powers from inside the bottle?" And the genie said, "Yes, but I can't release myself in the process." So the fisherman said, "Very well, then help me to understand the truth of the problem that is weighing on my mind." And as the genie exercised his craft, the fisherman was able to become aware of the source of the adage passed on to him by his grandfather. He saw the scene of the genie releasing himself from the bottle. And the fisherman also learned how he could gain such capacities from the genie and how he could convey that knowledge to others. But there is a caveat. There was a limit to what he could do. And the fisherman was aware of it. So he took the bottle and flung it right back into the sea. From that day on, the fisherman stopped being a fisherman. And he became somebody who warned other people of man trying to use something which they did not know how to use. And since so few fishermen found genies in bottles and there were no wise men to guide them, most of the fishermen's teachings got garbled. The few early successors dressed in grand clothes, they performed little rituals, they drank out of brass bottles, housed in very lavish temples. This whole thing became a religion of sorts for a while. As time wore on, the descendants of the wise old man are not, they live somewhere, but they cannot be found. And the descendants of the fishermen are totally untraceable. But that big brass, the small brass bottle lies somewhere in the ocean with a genie slumbering inside. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much for telling. Again, excellent acting, which is, the original identity, at least to me, is as a writer, as a journalist. So over the years, Sudha, you have become a storyteller.
Thank you very
Anybody?
much, Eric.
Yeah, you're acting out you're becoming the different characters. Anybody? Any thoughts? I think there are many versions of that story. You know,
Yes.
of the genie in the bottle. Sometimes the fisherman asks for a big house, and then gets punished because he and his wife were asking for too much. So then it all goes away. So that is certainly an archetypal image and relationship and situation, finding something from the bottom of the sea which has great power. Well, Sudha, go ahead, somebody.
Yes, why do you say that the bottom of the sea has much power?
I said something is coming from the bottom of the sea that
Yes, but
has much power.
In general.
And well, you know, one approach to story is that everything in a story represents an aspect of oneself, of the teller, of the listener, of the psyche. So the sea is like one's unconscious, one's imagination. And so something that comes from the bottom of the sea is it's an important information it's like a dream coming up.
Yes, I say it because when I was small, I was like 15 or 14. I remember that the sea was very rough. In Lima is very rough. So I remember that I had a kind of right when I went into the sea. I just like dived and kissed the bottom of the sea before gating. I remember just like maybe it didn't happen, but it's not that it said that's why they were asking because I had permission of the sea because sea can be dangerous.
Yes, it is dangerous. Veena?
Lovely telling, Sudha. Of course, you are a literary person or a well-read person, so that fluency of language and the thought process of the language is definitely there. I liked all that. And of course, you were into the story, into the different characters. You were explaining them very nicely. So that's about for you. As for Eric, as he said, these are archetypal stories. The story that I told few years or few months ago on Eric's platform was the one with the fisherman and the golden fish. I remember I have painted and drawn those cards. I think I was the first time on Eric's platform. So yeah, very similar, isn't it? Because when you ask for too much, that was the fisherman and the golden fish. But in this story, it was something that is hidden, and then you still have that curiosity to find out. But then the bell goes, as you said, use what you can learn to use only. So that cash phrase was very nice. And it's a good reminder to ourselves that sometimes curiosity, we are like trying to find out something, and you never know, it may not be the good thing that to have found out.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Veena.
Thank you. Nice reminders from the story. I have to be on another Zoom. I'm sorry. This was a very, very engaging and very helpful. Thank you, Eric, once again for all those
Thank you.
Inputs. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Sorry to leave.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else want to say anything about this story or the way it was told? Sudha, what really attracted you to the story? What do you really connect with in this story?
There's something that's very fascinating. And the other reason is, Eric, one of your guidelines was that there should be a lively dialogue between
Mhm,
characters.
mhm,
You said that was the only theme that you had.
mhm, mhm,
So I was looking for stories through that prism,
mhm.
and I thought this fitted in beautifully. And
Yes, it did. Great. Okay, thank you very much.